Travis Wayne Goodsell. The majority of LDS critics who do videos on YouTube, I don't participate in Facebook or Twitter, so I'm not speaking to those, deal with what the church has been exposed. And so the church now makes new claims about church history. And so critics are criticizing the church for what they currently are claiming versus what they used to claim. For example, there's a new guy to me. I don't know if he's been around YouTube for years, and YouTube has just been holding him back from me. But he's able to do his own creative thumbnails, I guess. I don't know if I've seen them on a picture search, but a most recent one he's done that I see the thumbnail for is on one side of the thumbnail. It has Joseph Smith looking at the golden plates, which the history says gold plates, and he's making a translation directly from reading and telling Martin Harris and such. Then the other and it has the caption fake or wrong or something. And then on the other side it's got Joseph Smith looking into a hat and it says real. And this is because the church has now come out and confessed that yes, this was Joseph Smith's manner of translating by the gift and power of God. Then there's me as an LDS critic. I don't go down the church's rabbit holes within rabbit holes, which is apologetics. For me, I went to the primary source materials. So, for example, I'm sure a majority of LDS critics have heard that Joseph Smith was arrested for being a glass looker. This was in March of 1826. And if you look on Wikipedia, they don't properly reference it. It needs to be corrected because it refers either to an author of modern day scholarship like Harris or somebody, or to a claim of needs source confirmation or something like that. And this is again another church deflection, distraction, deception trick, as they don't want the primary source information put in Wikipedia for people to actually do research and find out the truth. And so you don't see Wikipedia having a link or a picture, because they have pictures accompanying many of their Wikipedia pages, because that's what you do with primary source information. If it comes from a picture of something that's necessary to show primary source confirmation, you're supposed to put the picture in. And sure enough, people have found the court where Joseph was accused of being a glass looker. It was a misdemeanor offense, and it was for a fine of $2.68 back in 1826. And Wikipedia doesn't reference it. And so LDS critics may know of him being a glass looker, or they may know that the church is now confessing that he looked at a rock in a hat, as the church is promoting a rock. Oh, this is his seer stone. This is the gift and power of God. But even that's wrong. Because South Park got it right. 2 rocks, and they look nothing like the one the church is promoting. And so that's a pretty sad tale when South Park gets church history more correct than the church has given it. Hilarious episode. And still there were some errors, but hilarious, because it presents Joseph Smith in all of these cases as the one behind the whole thing. That he fooled his parents, he fooled his family, he fooled his neighbors, fooled everybody. He's not that brilliant. And here we're going to go over as my criticism of the church is saying, hey, no, this is the truth. You guys are lying. There's a big difference in criticism. That's why the church wants me assassinated, and they don't care about all the rest of you critics. You guys can continue on arguing and complaining about the church and its doctrines that are not Christian and all this and that. Church doesn't care. Me? Oh, they're deeply concerned. They want me shut down. They want me silenced. They want me gone. And it's because of that reason. And so we're going to go over why Joe Jr. was chosen as the front guy for the organization instead of Hyrum. Yeah, remember, he's a brother too. He's the older brother of Joseph. Why wasn't he the one in charge of all this? Why wasn't he the one who found treasure plates in Egyptian? And so we have to go back in time. We have to go back before the Book of Mormon. We have to go to the birth of Hyrum. It was in Vermont. Smith Sr. Clearly is the one who named the children. Their firstborn that survived, I think there might have been one who died. We won't get into that. Alvin. Now, in our day and time, women get to choose the names most often, as it was the case with my children in the first marriage. As much as I wanted to name the son, you'd think that she would have allowed, okay, I'll name the girls, you name the boys. No. Had to be her name. And so my only recourse was the baby blessing to give him the name that I wanted to give him. But Smith clearly is the one who is naming the children. Alvin is a Celtic like elf, Alvin elf type of name, and so it could be a family name from Wales that they came from, or Ireland, but clearly there is no distinctive identification, as our current time women tend, the names are chosen more for popularity to avoid childhood bullying, name calling, as best as possible in most cases. But children are relentless. They always come up with something. Julia Gulia. Oh, which Which movie was that? Was that an Adam Sandler movie with Drew Barrymore, who was Julia Gulia? That was going to be her actual name, marrying the Mr. Gulia. It could have been, it would have been Adam Sandler. Wedding Singer, maybe. I don't see too much anymore as it was of ancient days to name your child based upon the meaning of the name. And so my name, Travis, when I learned of the meaning of my name, I asked my mother, why did you choose Travis? And thinking that it was, something significant or profound, my mom told me, well, your dad came to me and gave me 3 options: Vincent, Quentin, or Travis. She chose Travis. So I'm not Vincent and I'm not Quentin as a result. And but as I did the research on the names of the children thereafter, I recognized a complete alternate shifting. Hiram is not spelled the way we understand it. Hyrum. It was Hiram. Where do I get that from, Travis? Show me evidence. Okay, how about court documents? Wikipedia does not catch it. The church doesn't want any Mormon to catch it. But in the Wikipedia page about the arrests of Joseph Smith Jr., there are occasional ones where Jr. is arrested with others in the church. And then there's one in which Hiram Smith should have been arrested with them, but yet we don't find Hyrum. But we do find an unlinked Hiram. And his last name is Smith. And I'm going, well, who's Hiram Smith if it's not Hiram Smith? It's Hiram Smith. He was arrested, but they put the actual listing in the court documents, and either they didn't want to catch it, or they didn't know to catch it. And the church ain't going to interfere and say, oh, that's supposed to be Hiram, you need to link it to Hiram, so that the people can know who it is. Nope. And so Hiram, in that spelling, Hiram, comes from Freemasonry with Hiram Abiff. And that tells us a lot about Smith Sr., about what he's up to, what he's doing. He's using a Freemasonic spelling of a name. And yes, there is a Hiram in the Old Testament, I'm pretty sure. And it may even be spelled Hiram. We'll check. Yep, 36 are found. 2 Samuel, and Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David, and Hiram, king of Tyre, sent servants unto Solomon, for Hiram was ever a lover of David. And Solomon sent to Hiram, saying, and Hiram, king of Tyre, Hiram was ever a lover of David, as they're just repeating Kings and Samuel. Which Samuel is actually 1st and 2nd Kings, so that 1st and 2nd Kings are technically 3rd and 4th Kings. But because Kings duplicates material from Samuel, c'est la vie. And so, yeah, they would have had knowledge of the spelling, Hiram, as others, Joseph, also biblical. And so it's not uncommon to have the spelling that way. So why are we now calling his spelling Hyrum? What's going on? I should be getting to that in this one as to why, because it has to do with why Junior was chosen over Hiram. And so we can see, as if you are aware, if you've ever gone to Smith Sr.'s website, the church only allows it to be known that Sr. was a member of Canandaigua, New York Lodge. They don't tell you it's York Rites. And then they have in the footnoting thing, this is speculation. It's unconfirmed. No, we have the records recovered from Canandaigua Lodge, and others have posted prominent people in the various lodges and lists of lodge members of the area in the early colonies. So yeah, it's well confirmed. He wasn't just a member, he got the charge as a Master Mason over Canandaigua, New York. That was his lodge. He wasn't just a member. And that is crucial in understanding real church history, not the fake stuff that the church is putting out, and even putting out to denounce the previous stuff that was fake. They cannot tell the truth. It's just horrifying to be born and raised Mormon and to have my own church betray me. As I'm going around talking to my peers growing up in school, no, our church is the only true church. Okay, fine. Well, we'll find out after we're dead who's right and who's wrong. Oh, whoops. South Park already solved that question. It's the Mormons. Mormons are the true church. When the hell episode. So just, oh goodness. And so I'm losing it. And so what you have is Smith Sr. as a Master Mason. So then, would his sons have also gone to the same Canandaigua Lodge? And the answer is no. You can't find that information out from Wikipedia. You have to find out from the lodges themselves. And Freemasonry requires no nepotism in the lodges. You cannot have family members in the lodges, and for a specific reason. If, in the case of the Smiths, you've got a father who's the Master Mason, he could be tempted to elevate his sons up in the ranks above other members in the organization, in the lodge. And so, to avoid all of that controversy, only one member of a family in a lodge. So, okay, Hiram, after Alvin's death, where does Hiram go? Palmyra. Well established. Even Wikipedia covers it. And so you can see, looking at a map, Palmyra is within walking distance. It's a little bit further of a walk to get to Canandaigua. And they didn't have automobiles back then. They had horse and buggies. And so Senior, being the patriarch of the home, got to take the car out for the drive to go to work. That is Fraternity Lodge. And so what about Joseph? If he can't be a part of Canandaigua, and he can't be a part of Palmyra as a member, but he does tell us in his history, I attended their meetings as often as occasion would permit. He wasn't talking about religion. And so other family members are allowed to attend, they just can't become members. And in that section of New York, if you understand how they designed or organized Freemasonry, is that there were two main groups, Scottish Rite and York Rite. The Smiths were in York Rites. And so they had it set up so that in Western New York, you have strips of vertical territories, Scottish Rites, York Rites, Scottish Rites, York Rites, and you couldn't mix. You couldn't be a Scottish Rites and join York Rites, Heber C. Kimball. It was not allowed. And so you had to have certificates, which is where we get the documentation of who was who in what lodge. And so there were no other York Rites lodges in the strip close by the farm so that Joseph could go to without having a horse of his own. But Dad, I want to take the horse out tonight. Last time you didn't fill it up with gas. And I don't want you carousing with that Emma girl. Nothing good will come of that. You're in my house. And so, oh man, mercy. And so yeah, Joseph Smith could only attend the either lodge, either with Hiram, but who wants to go with their brother when you can go with Daddy? Especially when a certain Captain William Morgan, who had been a 7th rank York Rites lodge member, Freemason, he came to Canandaigua, and it appears 1823, because Wikipedia is not quite sure when he actually got there. And so why 1823? Well, I did that video already. Moroni, Nephi. It was all about William Morgan coming into town saying, hey, I've learned of a plot against the United States of America. I need to publish it into a book to get it out to the public. And he was arrested twice in 1826. September. Do you remember? September? Do you remember the time in September? And then there's Earth, Wind, and Fire, but that's a specific date, the 21st of September, which does play a part in church history. And notice, Joseph only goes once a year to learn all about Hebrew, all about the Book of Mormon, etc. Just once a year is all it took. And he had it all down pat, huh? Knew how to translate by the gift and power of God. Was all ready to go. No. There's a reason why September was repeated over and over and over again each year. It's because of the sign in the heavens in the future. And the sign that was in the heavens when Joseph retrieved the plates and so with Junior attending Senior's lodge and having William Morgan come to the lodge saying, hey guys, I know about a plot against America. This is what I learned. And having to tell the story, he had gotten a publishing deal with Batavian Press. As you have the Palmyra, Canandaigua, York Rites section, then you have Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball's Scottish Rites section. Then you have the Batavian York Rites section. If you're not watching all my videos, I'm giving you clues about what I already know and have already covered in other videos. and so William Morgan needed to get the book published, and it was quite a lot of work back then. They didn't have a Word program. They didn't have Amazon to publish it for free, but the Batavian Press paid him in advance so that he can spend all his time working on the publication of the book. And what is required is that he would dictate to a scribe who would put it on parchment, and then that parchment would then be transferred onto copper plates. Colden? Anybody? And then be given to the print press to be transferred into the printing for publication. And so there's a knowledge needed of making copper plates, sort of like a forger who might have been taught such a practice while in Vermont with the New Israelites, a Congregationalist Christian religion, when Justice Winchell then came into town and became a member because he wanted polygamy, whereas Smith Sr. did not become a member. There is no record of him becoming a member, thus no polygamy. Then you have the Book of Mormon saying no polygamy, no polygamy, no polygamy, no polygamy 4 times. So polygamy is bad? Is that what I'm hearing? I'm sensing you don't like polygamy. And Joseph Sr. learned how to forge metal from Justice Winchell when he came in. He also learned about the rocks in a hat trick, which was the rod of Aaron. It's now the gift of God. The gift and power of God versus the gift of God. Oliver Cowdery, you have a gift. It's a gift of God. It was originally the rod of Aaron in the original Doctrine and Covenants, which was in the Book of Commandments. And so yes, wow, the Cowderys, They're a part of this too. Isn't that amazing? So yes, Oliver Cowdery took over after Joseph blew it with Martin Harris. Joseph, I gave you one assignment. I don't care if you lost your firstborn son. This is the fate of the human race. Here, go to your room. But Dad, the Methodists were being mean. If only the South Park creators could pick and choose the jokes from my videos to add to their shows. Anyway, so and so this is why Hiram was out of the loop, because Canandaigua was where he was working on the book. He had a residence down there in Canandaigua, and then would go to the Freemason Lodge as a Freemason of the York Rides to work on the book. So it could be done in secret, so that nobody could interrupt, and Smith Sr. could be involved in the writing of it, very likely being the one doing the dictation, as Junior could have even been involved. But that's how Junior would have heard all about the threat. That's why Joseph Smith talked about the Constitution hanging by a thread, and the government will collapse, be brought to ruin, and so yeah, Joseph had that firsthand through William Morgan. And Hiram, however, Palmyra. And so he couldn't make it a family outing. That would be too suspicious. What's also interesting is that back in Vermont, they moved to Massachusetts. Well, they moved right by Dartmouth. And Dartmouth is the college there, the prestigious college. And Hiram took classes at Dartmouth. Smith Sr. was poor, struggling to get a business going. He tried ginseng farming, but the crops kept failing, and you've probably heard about the volcano in the Philippines that created the summer without a summer. That was all part of it. And it made it tough for Senior to support the family. And how did he then pay for college for Hiram? As ex-Mormons, you may have heard something about grave robbing. Dartmouth. What's Dartmouth all about? Medical school. What do medical schools need? Cadavers. How do you get cadavers? Well, they fill out on their driver's license ID that they want to be a donor. No, you don't have that back then. You've got a whole bunch of paranoid people that don't want the science of medicine. And so you have Benjamin Franklin, whose home had this secret room that was discovered that he was doing examinations of cadavers. And that's the only way that we're now able to have the full detailed body of a woman and men, is because of the illegal research done by medical doctors who knew that there's no way I'm going to help anybody unless I know how the body functions, how it works, what's going on inside. You can only do that with cadavers. And since people aren't willing to give up their ancestors, oh yeah, here's Grandma. Never liked her anyway. Go ahead, chop her up. You know, they needed some way to obtain cadavers, but not be associated directly with the digging of the graves. And so that's how Senior paid for Hiram to go to Dartmouth, was providing cadavers. Now, whether it's obviously it's illegal in that time period, but that's who helped Joseph Smith when he had his infection that they wanted to take out his knee. And it was the Dartmouth guy who came in and said, oh, we'll try this new procedure. How did he know to try the new procedure? Cadavers. And Joseph was able to keep his leg. And the church wants to promote it as, oh, Joseph Smith refused alcohol and obeyed the word of wisdom. And so kids, don't drink alcohol. Okay, well, you told a fib to scare kids into not drinking alcohol. I don't know, it's sort of like Santa Claus. You're lying to your kids. And they're going to hate you once they find out that Santa Claus is not real. Oh, did I ruin it for you guys? Were you kind of upset that you thought Santa Claus was real? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's how that happened. And so Hiram was educated. Hiram is older than Joseph. And yet, because of the circumstances of Junior going with Daddy down to Canandaigua, and William Morgan going to Canandaigua, and working on the publication in Canandaigua, Hiram got left out. And so they needed to figure out, after 1826, with the anti-Mason movement, because Smith Sr. was involved in all of that. As the Master Mason, he's responsible for the care and protection and the wellness of his lodge members. As a Master Mason, he's the bishop. And so when William Morgan is falsely arrested, and then falsely arrested again that same September, it was made very clear to them that people were on to him, and they were not going to let him finish the publication of the book. And so they had to devise a plan to save the life of William Morgan and yet finish the publication of the book and get it published. And they would need to have some kind of a cover story for the publication of the book, because they couldn't just come out and publish the book, The Threat to America by William Morgan, or The Threat to America by William Morgan as published by Joseph Smith Sr. They would be known, the enemy of the Scottish Rites, who were infiltrated by the Illuminati, whose sign and symbol was Lucifer's inverted pentagram, would want them assassinated, not just thrown in jail. You know, like saying maybe even assassinated while in jail during a year they're running for president, say, hypothetically. Putting in 2 agents to make sure that the assassination did take place. like I said, I've already talked about it. And so that's why Junior got to be a part of the process. Smith Sr. had removed William Morgan out of the country, saved his life, though almost got him killed in the process. The ship sank. There was a Thomas Monroe. I'm curious, where is Niagara in relation to the zones? Let's Google. I should have, because I'm now realizing I didn't think to check which zone Niagara Falls was in. Niagara Falls, New York. Batavia. Okay. I see Batavia. And there is, where are ya? There's Victor. Okay, so Victor, Batavia is York. Victor, where Heber was. That's okay. And there's Canandaigua. It's almost like right next to Victor. And Batavia is over here, so it looks like there was a York, and then a Scottish, and Batavia, and then Scottish, and then why is there no, there it is. Why do you disappear it? What's going on, Google? Yeah, it would be York in Niagara. Interesting. And so the only thing I can think of then is that Thomas Monroe, he was the one that was found murdered there in the waters. As they originally claimed it was Thomas Morgan because he was wearing his clothes. Until the wife came by and said, no, that's not somebody else, that's my husband. What's he doing in those other clothes? So that sort of ruined things. But the question is, what happened? Smith Sr. could not have gone to Niagara. He couldn't be connected with it. He's the one orchestrating the whole thing, and other people had to be involved to follow the orders. And so whatever happened in Niagara, it seems that either Thomas Monroe, gave his own life to try to cover it all up. This is a terrorist plot to coup America. This is how serious we're talking here. We're talking major Hollywood action movie, Dan Brown style. I don't know why he did not pursue the church any further. Probably because he doesn't know enough of the subject matter he's talking about. And yet, and so yes, the Tanners and others have properly made the identification that the Book of Mormon is taken from Monroe and Morgan. Okay. So hold on a second, I've got some project here going on. Task. give me a little more time. And so, whether it was a tribute to Monroe, knowing he was going to sacrifice his life to lead people on the wrong investigation, because the court case in the disappearance of William Morgan led to light sentences by the judge for the Freemasons who were accused of kidnapping Morgan, which wasn't a kidnapping, but they took the fall for it. But they get given light sentences, like a month or so in jail. Whereas the sheriff, whose job it was to investigate, who hired a tracker who tracked Morgan into Canada and then found out that he had decided not to stay in Canada but chose to board a ship on the East Coast and then sail away, which sank. He was rescued, though. And so, whether that was planned to sink the ship, maybe. Who knows? Others died. He survived. Was picked up by a fishing boat and rescued, and then eventually ended up in Honduras, where he became a banana plantation owner. And the current church apparently seems to know about it, which is disturbing, because the guy who I got the information from does not seem to make the connection with Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball being the enemies in the story. And so he thinks that the church does know about it because of the church's buildings practically right across the street from the plantation. But yeah, and so I can tell you all about William Morgan being the first one baptized for the dead in 1838, among the first 8 on that list. And his wife, who had to be left out of the loop. I mean, we're talking national security here. Sorry, honey. Can't tell you, it's a matter of national security. I'm taking the car. I don't know if I'll ever be back. Pack my bags, ready to go. I'm a-leaving. I end up dying on a jet plane too. How tragic. But it made for a good movie, and not just Armageddon, but Final Destination. The Destination, Final Destination is the title of the shows, isn't it? Final Destination 1, 2, 3, 4. And it ends up right at back at the beginning, wasn't it? Anyway. And so, this is why Junior was in charge of distracting Martin Harris. With the Book of Mormon, we now know, thanks to me, that the original 116 pages was from William Morgan and his manuscript. And because Martin Harris was on the Palmyra Committee of Anti-Masons, which made it even more uncomfortable when Martin Harris insisted that he be a part of it if he's going to spend his money. And so Joseph was therefore placed where Josiah Stoll had him working in the silver mine, looking for silver with his magic hat trick, of which he was arrested in March of 1826. You see how the whole thing fits into the narrative. Joseph could only go when occasion would permit. He eventually went to work for Josiah Soule in the silver mine to remove Joseph Jr. from the danger. That's the reason why. Is if they're going after William Morgan, it's a little too dangerous for Junior. And Junior then had to go find his own job. Why don't you get a real job and get a haircut while you're at it? Get a haircut and get a real job. And so, yeah, that's how he founded his sweet little Emma, who batted her eyes, and he was smitten. And then Father Emma, not with my daughter, you're not. Fine. We'll go elope at the jail where I was arrested. So if you're wondering why Harmony, Pennsylvania, not Susquehanna River, I've gone over that with you, is because Sidney Rigdon became the new author because of well, Sidney Rigdon was helping to with the first William Morgan transcript, and then when that failed because of Junior, Sidney Rigdon said, well, hey, I've got this other manuscript that was never published and they were just going to throw it away. Let's try that one. We'll use that as a template. It's got these names like Lamanites and Nephites. Why not try that? Nobody would likely know of it, like they apparently did about William Morgan. Turns out that's not the case. Mormonism Unveiled became published as the whole town from where Solomon Spaulding lived. He happened to share his stories, reading them in the tavern there in the town, and so the people all knew about his books. And knew of that one in particular. Hey, I recognized Lamanites and Nephites. That's Solomon Spaulding who used to live here. He died way back in 1818, wasn't it? 1819, somewhere around there. Same time that Joseph Smith Sr. became a Master Mason. 1818 was Master Mason. So 1918, somewhere around there. When Rigdon came back to Pittsburgh and then just happened to move in the community right next to Harmony. Huh. Same time that Joseph Smith was there in Harmony. Huh. So that's how they were aware of each other. But you're not going to find this out from the church. They lead you on rabbit holes of distraction and deflection. They don't want you to know the truth. And critics, good job, guys, for making the church members appear uncomfortable. But you need to know the truth, because the truth will set the members of the church still in the Mormon church free. We can put it to an end, tear down the church. But yeah, that's why Joseph Jr. was chosen instead of Hyrum, is because Jr. had background understanding of what was going on. If you notice, Hyrum was the replacement for Patriarch. Notice that as Patriarch, Joseph titled him Prophet, Seer, Revelator, and Patriarch. What do you think Senior was? who was the first patriarch. Prophet, seer, revelator, patriarch. And so Junior then was prophet, seer, revelator, translator. They didn't intend in the beginning to have Joseph be an actual translator. That was just the cover story. But in 1835, they got a hold of some Egyptian papyri. Whoa, gold! I guess I need to learn ancient languages. And so, was it Oliver Cowdery? Somebody went to New York to purchase a Hebrew and a Greek, alphabet and grammar, and dictionaries, and Bibles in those languages as well, Septuagint and the Hebrew Bible, so that he could then find a teacher. The first one that they had hired never showed, and so they found Rabbi Sykes, who then came in the winter of 1826 and taught them some Hebrew. And that's another story for another video, as we're already getting near 1 hour on this one already. But yeah, it's all coded, symbolic, but more coded than symbolic, to help people understand that the warning message that they're giving out, with the first vision being in 1820. We just celebrated in 2020 the 200th anniversary. Well, the year 1820 for the first vision didn't occur until 1838. And yes, as critics, we all know problems and complications with the history for the spring of 1820. Why did he say spring? Why didn't he know the exact date? As he knew the exact date for everything else. And so, yeah, it's all coded. And yes, the bicentennial year was supposed to be bigger than what the church made it out to be, which they failed in that plan and preparation anyway. Yeah, that's the year of the virus. It's the year when the Exodus began, as 3,333 years in the Jewish calendar from the Exodus. The very night when the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court dies. If you are aware of your Book of Mormon, and the coding in the Book of Mormon, I hope they didn't murder her. But, I mean, the timing, my God. 3, he gets to choose 3. But, yeah, that's why. So now you know a little more of the rest of the story. And yes, this would have to be included into my big real church history book that is still in need of an updating because of the Harmony information and the Cooper Smith shop information where Senior forged the copper plates, along with the barrels for the gunpowder, because copper doesn't spark the gunpowder. Thus, he can have a plausible deniability of making plates to replace the Book of William Morgan, calling it the Book of Mormon. So, there you go.